precisely 6:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Dilini Gunawardana, read by Sabrina Zawahir. The headlines. Stakeholders converge in goal for the Truth and Reconciliation consultations. 2 pilot projects are introduced to address elephant-human conflict. A Thai delegation explores renewable energy cooperation in Sri Lanka. The UNDP urges financial literacy to alleviate debt vulnerabilities in Sri Lanka. 2 key economic bills are to be introduced in the House tomorrow. And in world news, thousands mourn the late Iran president in Tabriz. And in sports news, Para-Athletics World Championship, Samita Dulan sets a new world record in the men's javelin throw. Now the local news in detail. In a bid to foster dialogue and address pressing concerns regarding the ethnic conflict and aftermath of the war, the Interim Secretariat for Truth and Reconciliation Mechanism Commission convened 3 significant stakeholder consultations at the District Secretariat Office in Galle recently. A diverse group of participants attended the meetings, reflecting a comprehensive cross-section of society ranging from government officials to grassroots organizations. The discussions brought together a wide spectrum of views, including government officials, media representatives, provincial leaders and members from grassroots organizations. Led by Acting District Secretary Mrs. C.P. Rajakarna, the district administration emphasized the importance of local perspectives in the reconciliation process. Regional reporters were briefed on the Commission's progress, ensuring transparency and public awareness. Key issues discussed range from gender inclusivity to social welfare and victim advocacy. There were suggestions for special provisions mandating female representation in the selection of commissioners and amendments to laws providing concessions for widows to remarry with some entitlements of 50% of the allowances or salary after marriage. The government plans to initiate 2 pilot projects, the temporary agricultural electric fence and the village electric fence, to protect villagers and farmlands experiencing significant elephant-human conflicts. This announcement was made during a discussion held yesterday, led by Senior Advisor to the President on National Security and Chief of Presidential Staff, Sagala Ratnayaka, alongside the heads of line agencies focusing on recent measures to mitigate wild elephant-human conflicts. In addition to the existing electric fences, pilot projects have been initiated in several conflict-prone districts to protect farmlands within regional secretariats' jurisdiction. These farmlands will be safeguarded only until the harvest season, with a focus on the construction of temporary agro-fences. Furthermore, there was an in-depth discussion about the pilot project for constructing electric fences around villages that experience frequent human-wild elephant conflicts, aiming to protect these communities. It was further decided that the agro-fence should be dismantled by the respective farmers after harvesting, and that the Department of Agricultural Development would assume responsibilities for its maintenance and custody. Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said a high-level delegation of Thai officials and private sector representatives met at the Ministry of Power and Energy in Sri Lanka to explore renewable energy cooperation. Taken to X, Minister Wijesekara said officials from various Thai agencies and the private sector, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Energy and Royal Thai Embassy, convened a meeting on Monday at the Ministry of Power and Energy. Acting on instructions from the Prime Minister of Thailand, the delegation is in Sri Lanka to assess the feasibility and potential for future cooperation and investment in renewable energy, particularly focusing on electricity generation. During the meeting, discussions centered around policies and plans for the electricity sector, multilateral interconnections, proposed sector reforms, necessary investments in renewable energy, the potential of green hydrogen and avenues for energy cooperation between the two countries. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing local news, data from the recently launched Multidimensional Vulnerability Report reveals that over half of Sri Lankans are multidimensionally vulnerable. Addressing a gathering at the launch of the Financial Literacy Roadmap by the Central Bank, the resident representative of the United Nations Development Programme, Azusa Kupata, said that approximately 70% of Sri Lankans have had to reduce at least one meal per day due to economic strain. She added the report also revealed that 33.4% of the population experiences vulnerability related to household debt, often incurring debt for essential needs like food, medical care and education. She advocated for financial literacy programs, debt management strategies and livelihood diversification to mitigate these acute vulnerabilities. The Financial Literacy Roadmap of Sri Lanka, developed for the first time in Sri Lanka, provides evidence-based guidance to all financial literacy stakeholders to move towards a single policy goal, which is improving the financial behaviors of all Sri Lankans and advancing their financial capabilities. Acting Finance Minister Shahan Singha said that two key bills aimed at bolstering the country's economy will be introduced in Parliament tomorrow. The Economic Transformation Bill and the Public Financial Management Bill are designed to enhance the management of public finances, thereby safeguarding against future economic downturns. Addressing a media briefing, the Acting Finance Minister said that the legislation stems from the vision of President Ranil Wickremesinghe himself rather than being proposed by the IMF. The new legislation will focus on preserving economic stability and maintaining optimal levels of public financial management to avert future economic crisis. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
A meeting between the newly appointed Maldivian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Masood Imad, and Minister Tiran Alas took place today at the Ministry of Public Security. The diplomats exchanged views on mutual interest, including the process of granting visas to the students engaged in higher education. That came to you in main news.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the Ministry of Education has issued a special statement addressing a false announcement circulating on social media which claimed that all schools on the island would be closed tomorrow. The ministry clarified that no decision has been made to close schools tomorrow and that schools across the island will remain open. The ministry also emphasized that the authority to make decisions based on special situation rests with the provincial education secretaries and provincial education directors. That came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Taking a look at the headlines of the world news, thousands mourn the late Iran president in Tabriz. Hamas says that Jenin raid will not discourage its resistance. Japan blocks iconic Mount Fuji view due to misbehavior by tourists. Now the world news in detail. Iranians have gathered in Tabriz, the capital of the East Azerbaijan province, to mourn at a farewell procession for President Ebrahim Raisi, who died in a helicopter crash on Sunday. Tens of thousands of mourners, waving Iranian flags and portraits of the late president, set out from a central square in the northwestern city, where Raisi was headed when his helicopter crashed. After the procession in Tabriz, the bodies of the deceased will be transferred to Tehran for another ceremony. Hamas says the Israeli army's operation in the city of Jenin in the occupied West Bank will not discourage the determination of the Palestinian group, which called the move desperate. A statement by the group said that the operation is a continuation of a series of the occupation's crimes of murder, siege and starvation in Rafah, Jabalia and other areas of the Gaza Strip. The group stressed its continuous to confront the occupation and its aggression by all means despite international complicity and silence. The Israeli army announced it began an operation in Jenin in the morning. Authorities in the Japanese town completed the installation of a large mesh barrier that blocks off the view of Mount Fuji, a deliberate move to discourage badly behaved tourists from taking photos at the spot. Frustrated locals have for years complained about foreign visitors to littering, trespassing and breaking traffic rules in pursuit of the perfect photo of the iconic stratovolcano. That ends World News. Prior to concluding the headlines of the World News once again, thousands mourn the late Iran president in Tabriz. Hamas says that Jenin raid will not discourage its resistance. Japan blocks iconic Mount Fuji view due to misbehavior by tourists. That ends World News.
Development News.
As the world commemorates International Tea Day, Ceylon tea stands proudly at the forefront, celebrating its rich heritage, unparalleled quality and global significance. International Tea Day serves as a poignant reminder of the profound cultural and economic impact of tea on societies across the globe. Amidst the festivities, Ceylon tea producers reaffirm their commitment to sustainability, community empowerment and environmental stewardship. Through responsible cultivation practices and ethical sourcing initiatives, they strive to preserve the natural beauty of Sri Lanka's tea-growing regions while empowering local communities and supporting livelihoods. This year's focus will shine a spotlight on women in the tea sector, highlighting their rich and diverse contributions across the supply chain from crop to cup. That came to you in Development News.
Moving on with sports news.
In sports news is the Para-Athletics World Championship. Samita Dulan Kudituaku set a new world record in the F44 javelin throw category at the Para-Athletics World Championships Kobe 2024 with a throw of 66.49 meters. Despite his remarkable achievement, he secured the silver medal as the javelin throw event combines both F64 and F44 categories. The gold medal was won by the Indian athlete with a final distance of 69.50 meters. That came to you in sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු හීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The embassy in Vietnam had a meeting with the topmost management of the iconic automobile manufacturer VinFast at their corporate head office in Hanoi to discuss and explore commercial and investment opportunities, thus benefiting both Sri Lanka and VinFast. VinFast is the auto manufacturer under the parent company of Vin Group, one of the largest listed corporates in Southeast Asia. That came to you in Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු හීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all all-new NSB Ithru account. NSB I Am, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce calls on all political parties to support the continuity of state-owned enterprises, reforms and the reform momentum building on the economic stability achieved. The Chamber stresses that it is vital to prioritize and implement the reforms related to state-owned enterprises, energy and fiscal management to ensure that the country does not revert to a crisis. It is crucial that all political parties focus on Sri Lanka's long-term sustainability and avoid leveraging the reform process for short-term election gains. That came to you in economic news.
Weather report.
Finally, we take a look at the weather report. The Met Department predicts that the prevailing showery and windy conditions will continue further, since the southwest monsoon conditions are gradually establishing over the island. Cloudy skies can be expected over most parts of the island. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, northwestern, southern and northern provinces. Very heavy showers, about 150 millimeters, are likely at some places in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in the Kandy and Nuwara districts. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters are likely at some places in the northwestern province and in Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in the other provinces of the island. Fairly strong winds, about 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, can be expected at times over the island. That was the weather report. Prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. Stakeholders converge in Galle for truth and reconciliation consultations. 2 pilot projects are introduced to address elephant-human conflict. The Thai delegation explores renewable energy cooperation in Sri Lanka. The UNDP urges financial literacy to alleviate debt vulnerabilities in Sri Lanka. 2 key economic bills are to be introduced in the House tomorrow. With that, we conclude the news, and over to my friend and certainly yours who's all geared up to keep you entertained with a wonderful collection of music. Over to you, Chandima.